Good evening, everyone. So this is a little different for us. After the pandemic, we started doing artist talks that were online on Zoom, and they became a way for us to uh, talk about exhibitions and open it up to everyone. So now that we're well beyond the pandemic, we're here in person again, but we still want to be able to put it on our YouTube station. So this is a little bit of a test for us. So I'd like to welcome everyone here. My name is Richard Baiano. I'm the president of Child's Gallery. We were established in 1937 here on Newbury Street. We are here to talk with our two artists, Flood and Jillian Freyer, about their exhibition, Intimate Structures. This is a very just informal conversation, but I think it's always good to hear what artists talk, how they think about their work. I'm going to read from the first paragraph of the press release because I think it's always good to start with that. Intimate Structures pairs the works of partners Flood and Jillian Freyer in conversation around the spaces and moments that shape and inform our lives. Flood's paintings and Freyer's photography both explore diverse environments, those we inhabit, those we create, and those we desire, and how these places reflect back upon us. This exhibition alternatively exudes both energy and quiet, juxtaposing scenes of bustling cities, cacophonous symphonies, peaceful gardens, and familiar gatherings. So there will be a question and answer session after, but I do want to give you some background. I think we had your first show here, Sean, in 2014.
I think it was, yeah.
2014.
Yes, yep.
And I met Jillian at that show, and I know because I looked at the photographs, and I didn't have a gray beard at the time. So that's how long it was. So before we start talking about the show, can you tell me a little bit about yourself as an artist and your artistic practice? And then I'm going to have you say the same thing.
Sure. So I work mainly in film photography and recently video, but I went to Mass Art for my undergrad and Yale for my master's. And I focus on a lot of women's subjects. I'm very interested in these kind of communities, the relationships between women. And yeah, a lot of my work oscillates between black and white and color, and for different reasons. But I'm really interested in kind of capturing these in-between moments, these spaces that only can exist with the camera.
Yourself, Sean.
I'd say I focus on painting and printmaking, experimenting with different techniques for works on paper. My subjects tend to really focus on the urban environment, but that seems to be changing a little bit with my own environment where we live now. And I think I really enjoy a lot of interior spaces. It changes all over, but I think revisiting the urban environments and combining our new environment outside the city has been really interesting. And I think that's where Intimate Structures come into play. And you did a great job titling the show, by the way. So this has just been really exciting to have our work together. And
so what's interesting to me is that I wouldn't have thought to put the two of you together because seemingly your representational styles are very different.
Yeah.
But when you see it all together, it really works, and you can see that there is obviously an intimacy between the two of you and how you work together. And I think I've observed over time how you've each sort of come together a little bit in your how you think about art. And I know you've been a big help with Sean, and Sean's been a big help with you. So Sean was, when I first encountered your work, everyone in Boston knew who Sean was because he was the one doing very almost like, I hate to use the word, but almost like graffiti art of the city. And so you developed a reputation that you had an existing reputation when you came, and it's been interesting to me to see how your work has become more abstracted, but is very much in the same vein.
Mhm.
So I would like you to just mention a little bit about how you've developed as an artist from the first exhibition we had 11 years ago to now.
I think I was much more interested in um, not strict representation, but more like defined still scenes, and that over the past over the past 10 years or so, it got looser and looser and more suggestive in like layers. And I think what a really big part of that was revisiting printmaking and the works on paper. You work in layers, so that just translated over to my painting, and it just got like looser and looser, almost as it's almost like just stages of the printmaking room, and I would bring that to the canvas, and I think that's what really changed the style. And now they kind of both flip flop, where the works on paper they assist my paintings, and vice versa.
And your prints are primarily monotypes, correct?
Monotype, which is a very like a painterly
Close.
technique. Yeah. And yeah, so thank you again for suggesting. I had done it in undergrad in 2005, and then I think in 2016 you encouraged me to go visit the Center for Contemporary Printmaking, and that's where it really you could see a change in my work at that point. So,
no, it's true, because you can really see how one informs the other. The thing that I'll point out about Sean's work that I think is interesting that this show is that I think is a reflection of your influence is that you've added, in addition to the urban landscape, the music landscape such as Symphony Hall, and then nature, which I think is very different for you. And I think they're successful.
Yes, I think I'd say Jillian definitely inspired me to not only our move outside the city, but she certainly inspired me to work in a different subject matter with sort of the same approach with paint. But I think just the garden seems to be really, what brought this show together, and the first kind of crossover in our artistic subject, because they are so different. But it was really exciting to it was Jillian's idea to start a garden, and I kind of went along with it. And then watching, we have got a 3.5-year-old son now. Watching like the garden change along with the growth of our family is just it really, I figured, why not paint this?
Yeah.
So,
well, and you've been photographing nature for many, many years, correct?
Yeah. So, I've always, no matter where we've lived, whether it's like New York, New Haven, or Boston, I've always left to go make work. I've always been going back to Connecticut, where I'm from, or, we would come up and visit Sean's family, where we live now. So, I've always been drawn to nature, and just like natural environments in general. So my idea was like, let's go move somewhere where I can make work all the time. And that's kind of where the garden came from, was just, I wanted, like, zucchinis and vegetables is great, but I really wanted it to be beautiful. I wanted a place to photograph people.
Yeah.
So, and both benefited from it. So
I'd say so, yeah.
So as two artists, do you talk about art all the time, or do you ever talk about anything else?
We talk about art in different ways, like the problems that come with art and the actual art making. It kind of, I'd say, it rules our life in a way. Not as much as our 3.5-year-old, but it does, yeah.
He was a little artist himself, because in the studio he was making
is
quite some drawings.
Yes, he's, I'd say, going to be some kind of artist, some kind of creative, yeah.
I told him to be careful.
Yeah.
So what's it like as two artists together? I mean, that must be Well, it's, it's just, they're, many times, one is an artist and another is in finance or something
more
like
stable.
that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know it any other way at this point, but
Yeah.
it's nice, I mean, we have the same values of like how we want to spend our time, and just, our work might be very different, but we do value the same things. So I think that really brings us together. And like if he's spacing out like in another world, I'm like, I know exactly what's going on right now. I don't have to ask him.
Yes, it's a mutual understanding.
Yeah.
That I don't think I suppose it's rare, or it's just we understand each other when we're both in our zones, and we approach things differently, but I think overall we can kind of appreciate where one's head's at. Sometimes, most of the time.
It can be frustrating too, but that's fine.
So, Jillian, do you have any photographers that have influenced you?
Yes, when I went to Mass Art, I originally was going for painting. I went to like a arts high school and did painting, did everything, and they said the one thing, they're like, no, don't go into photography. And they told me that at Mass Art too. And I found Intro to 35 millimeter, black and white, and I immediately fell in love just because it's so tactile and so much faster than painting, and I could be out in the world, which kind of like made me nervous, but also I craved it. I wanted to kind of tackle that. So at the same time, the first lecture that I ever went to was at Harvard, and it was Sally Mann. Oh, wow. And it was like this 3-day lecture. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm doing photography. That's the end of that.
That's
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And, like at Mass Art, it is very much about tradition. So you learn, like I didn't use a digital camera until I got to graduate school. So I was making everything with 4x5, large format camera and medium format. So, but yeah, I loved Sally Mann. So that was very influential for me. And I entered that program with literally no knowledge, which is almost kind of, I think I almost benefited from it because I wasn't completely influenced. I didn't already know what I was doing. Like it was so experimental for me. But I also love Vivian Sassen.
I know her.
She's Dutch. She does a lot of like kind of mixed media now. But her color is really gorgeous. And it's very much about the body. But, and then I'm trying to think of course, I'm trying to think of her name. I can't think of this woman's name. She was a photographer like in the early 1900s, I want to say, and they just recently found this archive of her work. But she made thousands of, they're like these incredible snapshots, which is like, I really am very sentimental, and I love what always drew me to photography in general was just like capturing this thing and having it for myself. Grew up loving looking at different photo albums. So, and I really love how this woman's work, of course, like she's not around to sequence it. So other people are in charge of this. And just how kind of like disparate these moments are. And they just feel like their own moment. It's not something you've seen before, because of course she was a woman during this time, just documenting things. So
is it Vivian Mayer?
It's not Vivian Mayer, no. Right. I want to say it's like Laura Webb or something like that. I'll get back to you on that.
So what's interesting about Child's having photography now, as we're being integrated more into what our programming is, and I remember at one point someone said to me, "You're going to end up becoming a photography dealer, aren't you?" And I'm like, "No, but yeah, I'm happy." But I wanted to point something out. Like, I know that you probably aren't aware of this, Sean, but you take the most beautiful, just daily photos of your family
Oh, thank
that
you.
I don't think they're going to realize until like 20 years from now what you captured, because they're just really very special. And I
Thank
think
you.
you see that in a lot of these things. One of my favorite works of yours that's not hanging, but we have for the show, is the one of the woman in the black and white with the hair, which
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like a sculpture.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering with you, do you have sort of preconceived ideas of poses, or do you just kind of let it come to you? Because like you have to kind of figure out how she's posed. The same thing with this one here.
Yeah, I'd say that in a lot of circumstances, the process is very separate from the output, like the product. Um, when I'm working with people, I'll kind of have this sort of prompt in my mind, which is just a starting point, like, okay, we're going to go out and you're going to roll around in the grass and it's going to be dawn. There's going to be tons of mosquitoes, like that one. But it's just a starting point just to give the person something to do, because the images that you take at the beginning of working with someone, they're always the worst. The end, that's when people are like loose and like just feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So to give people a kind of prompt is a way to just help them relax. But yeah, I think a lot of my work was very much staged when, like, right until I got to graduate school, I started using a digital camera just so that I can kind of work through ideas faster. But at the same time, it also allowed me to kind of be more interactive and play more and not be so stagnant, which the 4x5 is this box and you're behind the dark cloth, like in the movies. And there's not a lot of movement. Like you have to be still. Otherwise, like you're focusing on their eyes, they move back and then you just see their nose in focus. So yeah, that, and just to kind of go back to the family photos again, when I had my son, I thought it was like such a shame to be taking all these photos on my phone. So I picked up the 35. You know, Sean and I grew up in the 80s, 90s, and I was like, I want him to have these kind of like tactile photos. I think it's such a shame to just flip through. So this might be like an extended story, but when I was at Mass Art, all the hospitals around the area were switching over from analog to digital. So on Craigslist, you know, you could find all these ads of them just getting rid of all of their stuff. So I've been hoarding all this material for so long. And so when I had our son, Macklin, I wasn't out making these photos and, you know, meeting people on the street and making appointments. My practice kind of had to change in the way that I made work. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna use this 35, which was from that intro class.
Yeah.
And I used the box of film that I had since like 2010 that I picked up from the hospital, like past Jamaica Plain, I don't know. But so I used all that film until it stopped developing, and I realized it had been
Exposed.
It had been expired for 24 years.
Yeah.
But it was so nice because, you know, it didn't feel like there was a lot at stake. So I could carry on around this little 35mm camera and be so much more present and just be in the moment. And yeah, at first it was just to capture these moments of my son. And then I started developing them. And I was like, ooh, I love this variation instead of just like such a planned out image. So it was a really nice surprise that I had not anticipated.
Well, what's interesting now is you hear a lot about the younger generation wanting to go back to analog.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I remember as a kid, like my first trip to, this is how you know I'm a Gen Xer, my first trip to Washington, D.C., I had a 110 camera.
Okay.
And I took photos of everything. And I remember like being inside the Capitol and getting this photo, and I'm like seeing this beautiful thing. And then a week later, I got the film. Everything was black. Nothing showed up because I didn't understand anything about exposure. But yeah, so
it's just about the moment then.
Exactly.
So on here,
I still have my photo albums from those.
Nice, yeah.
So now, Sean, do you have any artists that influence you?
I am most influenced by music.
Oh, really?
drew me or has drawn me to the orchestra. Visual artists, I think it's more sound for me that I can, music and sound, instrumentals.
Who's your favorite composer?
I don't have
I'm
a
just
favorite
assuming it's
composer.
classical. It might be
Yeah, I don't
Duran
know.
Duran.
I'm all over the place with music. I'm trying to go through mentally my like Spotify list right now.
It doesn't have to be classical. You know what
No,
you like.
no, it's like different for different moods of music for different occasions, or like usually like I'll listen to some like hip hop beats when I'm starting a painting, and then like jazz starts to come into it, and the classical has really been the past couple of years. I've been like sitting in on rehearsals at the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and I think I got great access to like I'm the only one in the audience, and seeing rehearsals was really like the building blocks of the compositions was interesting to see, and I think that's like that stop and go of music, and um, you know how the conductor just like points in its horns, just like that organization and control of the sound is what like drives me to paint.
So as a painter, you're a composer or a conductor.
Am I? But I think yeah, music is just I try to think of like different artists that there's handfuls of artists that I love their work. I like different work than myself, than my own style or approach. I can't, but I'm just going to say music is what inspires me most.
Well, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Do you listen to is it in your ears only, or is it all around the music, all around sound? Like, do you have
While I'm
headphones on?
painting?
Yeah.
Oh no, I blast it in a speaker, or like live painting on the in the street is like hearing the city sounds is like what I kind of that's what fuels me. I'll even like I did a series of paintings for some time while I was in New York, and uh, it was all about the subway systems and different scenarios there, and like that's what was like feeding my like paint application. And I would even come back to the studio and work on paintings with like recordings of me in the subway is just loud, so it just continues that environment. So I think it's sound that really like
Interesting.
captures me rather than like um, different visual work, and even construction, jackhammers, like I'm like, oh, I love that. It's kind of like it's like ambulances, like all those things kind of feed it. So,
What's interesting to me is that I always say that nature is like one of the loudest places I've ever heard. That drives me crazy.
Nature?
Yes, but like the sounds of the city, the sounds of the city definitely are relaxing to me. Like I can sleep through it. I can sleep through like the backing up of the concrete truck and everything. So now, Sean, I know when earlier in your career you were mostly doing plein air painting, all in one sitting, correct?
right. Or different visits.
Over different visits. Is that still how you're working now, or is this all coming out of your head?
It's still like going to a location and revisiting that. I'll usually start on the street, depending on the scale, and then bring it back to the studio, revisit the location. I work from drawings, photo references. It's kind of like it's changing though. The past the most recent work is starting to like incorporate more figures or suggestions of figures and vegetation. The garden is like starting to like creep into my concrete environments. So it's it's a mix up of live and studio work,
and I think that's what makes the title so interesting is intimate structures, because like I haven't seen this side of you before.
I haven't either.
No, and it's really fascinating, and I think you actually help to bring that out, and I think that's what good pairings do with artists.
Well, it's interesting because like I feel like I've changed in the way that I maybe make work, like I was mentioning with the different cameras and but I mean now, Sean, you've had a studio in Boston and New York, and now you have a home studio, which is like very different and was a huge learning curve
Right.
for him, I think. Like just being like, I'm painting this chaos, and then like in the meantime, I'm in the studio in the back with nature all around.
Yeah.
So I think just by the nature of our environment,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you open the door and you see the garden.
It's like tree frogs and
Yeah.
They're loud.
They are. They are loud. They are very loud.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask Jillian or Sean?
One question. I'm curious, Sean. When I see things of the scale, like painting right behind you, and you did say you do some on-site sketching and drawing.
right.
Do you do preliminary drawing, black and white or whatever, at a smaller scale before you blow it up to that sort of scale? Or how do you think about that process?
I've painted a few pieces on this scale. I usually stay a little bit more mid-scale. These are like, when I work larger like this, it's a lot more about paintings I've done smaller scale and kind of combining all those to make up a large work. So it's more of like, a conglomeration of past paintings I've been doing to get to this size. Whereas I'll work on something like that from life. A lot of these paintings are like the newer cityscape paintings are, like I said, going off my works on paper were like the post-up advertisements you see on vacant buildings or buildings under construction. I think I love that, the layer effect, and that seems to have like be building my cityscapes lately. And so it's not like I can, I'm not going to drag a piece like this down to the sidewalk.
It'll sail away.
It will sail away with it. And it's more of a combination of different paintings that builds something of this scale.
We had to make sure that it fit through the doors, getting it in here. Must not have been fun getting it here.
I helped.
Yeah. No, they came in. We had determined through a previous show that we could do it, but it's like just barely. So, do you each critique each other when you're working, or do you leave each other alone?
We might critique each other.
Yeah, we'd help.
I mean, I think we're both our own worst critics a lot of the time. So I'll be like, oh, that's terrible, like to myself. And he's like, no, it's not, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean.
We wait around till we really need like a different perspective, I'd say. If we're like, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
We critique each other.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go in, if one of us is stumped, we'll give each other just like our own perspective, because it can be really helpful because we think so differently. So I feel like a lot of our problem solving, like we're both good at very different things. So I think that our problem solving can be really helpful because we look at it with such a different perspective.
I get really excited when Jillian's like, ooh, I like that one, because she doesn't love all my work. I love all her work, but there's a select, a minimum
good
amount
answer.
I get away with. So it all, in the end, I think we definitely help each other out.
I think I might be like distracted a lot of the time.
Well,
so when
she's
something
distracted
strikes
with
me,
her own
I let you know.
Well, what's good is there's the story of the like one of the things I think you're really good at, Sean, is knowing when to stop. And I think knowing when to stop is the hardest thing for an artist, because they're always their own worst critic. And we had Ann Powers, who was recently passed away, I'd go and see a painting she was working on. I'm like, it's done, it's great. And then I go back and she's painted over it, painted over it, painted over it,
Yeah.
painted over it. But I think that's probably maybe at some point you say, we're good. But I don't know if you ever heard the story of the kindergarten teacher who every year at the school opening, she has the best class, the best works in class. And they ask her, why are your children's work so good? She's like, I just take it away from them when they're done.
Oh. That's funny.
So, yeah. So
That's what I do with him too. So.
you've gotten very good at that. That's a hard thing to do. You know?
I think it's it feels risky to like, you know, I don't know. I'm getting more and more comfortable with sort of like a new language. So it's, you know, it's a vocabulary I'm learning, and
It's not over explaining.
yeah, I'm not trying to. I don't know. I'm figuring it out still. I hope I never do though.
Well, I'll say is that when he went from like really detailed paintings, there was like a time frame where he was really frustrated because he kept feeling like before he arrived at like work like this, he felt like he had to over explain and have to like tell you exactly what's going on. So I do, and what he always said was like, oh, I don't want to explain everything. I don't want to explain every detail. So I think it was like a few years from like, I think the beginning of the subway work was when he first started experimenting with that, which is when he was at that residency and he started working with like, it wasn't printmaking, but it was just kind of like layers and different materials. And I think that was the beginning of that. And you've become much more confident since then.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, that's true, because there really is a development of your work over time, going from, I think, because we have some of your early works here, and it's interesting just how different they are, but the same. But it's always a good thing, and I think that, you know, I think probably the printmaking helps you to sort of loosen that up a little bit.
Right.
You know?
And it's great. Everything's upside down and backwards, so it's like, oh, that makes sense. And transparent, but it's neat to. I look forward to. There's so many techniques in printmaking I haven't like, you know, experimented with. So I think.
And you do etchings as well.
Etchings are like the bones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I noticed the cadence too, where you kind of monotype with etching.
Right, that's a lot of fun to mix those two. Yeah, the etchings are like the foundation. I could never get sick of that. But yeah, bringing the painterly quality of monotypes is really a lot of fun, and adds a whole other, you know, dimension to it, and another monotype on top of that.
So
you
with
know when to stop.
Yeah, and stop.
Well, what's always interesting to me about prints and print collecting is that while prints as an art are a multiple, you really want what makes it interesting is how it varies from one another, the differences between states and things like that. And so I think the monotype is a very natural expression for the way that you work.
Right.
Because nothing is the same, and you can't repeat it.
Right.
I don't think you, like when we're ordering like all the images that I'm organizing for him that I take, he gets very frustrated because it is so technical. So I will say that I think the monotype is definitely more your style, because the other stuff is so rigid and so precise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have to organize it in the computer, which you don't like, but
Tough. That's a whole other side
it
of
is
things.
a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So, do you live with your art, or some artists do, some don't? And do you collect art?
We do collect art. A lot of our art is like in flat files.
Oh, great.
But yeah, we moved into our home. It'll be 5 years this spring, and my request was paint all the walls white because I think we both get really overstimulated. So, and we just finally have put up 2 other pieces of people's and framed it, and we love it. But yeah, it's very slow. But we do have a like nice collection of a lot of friends and artists that we admire.
Yeah.
Like 2D work. So the next 5 years, we'll probably get 2 more framed. You know?
Does anyone want to ask anything?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I see in your work, I do see a lot of musicality, you know, like the energy of Stuart Davis, you know his work.
Yes, yes, yep.
And I see yours in nature, like that black and white back there, the riot of that.
Yeah.
So I can see how you're complementary and that your work looks more grounded.
Mm.
So I wonder if that's part of, you know, both of you as artists. One's more grounding, one is kind of wilder. But there's wildness in yours too, but it's just
Yeah.
it's a different flavor. Curious about that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I feel like that's accurate. I think we have like an ebb and flow of just our art making in general. And like I said, like we're similar in so many ways, but also very different in just the way that we operate. So I'd say like in certain, like I am much more drawn to nature because it grounds me. Like that is my therapy. I go out, I look for the image with the spider web, the black and white, that is from this walk that I do almost every day at this spa. And one morning I went and it was literally littered with these spider webs. But you can only see it at a certain time, then it disappears. But yeah, that is my thing. Whereas like Sean loves his feathers ruffled and loves to be in like the chaos of the city, whereas I'm not. But you are more grounded in certain ways. I think we complement each other where, you know, not where we lack, but
Well,
yeah.
your work's very captures ephemeral nature or ephemeral action.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of similar in a way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That we discovered, like I feel like we never knew that until we put the work together. And I was like, oh yeah, we do have a lot in common with these small moments that we're interested in, and kind of showing these, like for Sean, he's showing time passing. For me, I'm holding on to it.
Right, yeah. I'd say you'd had some pretty wild times. Like, there's been a couple subjects that you like find off the internet, and
I
did some locations. I'm like, are you sure? And so I'd say, yeah, you've got.
I like a little chaos,
card.
but a certain kind of chaos. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is too is Cosmo is a little bit of controlled chaos. Cosmo is their long-haired dachshund.
Yeah.
Which is really.
I try and control his chaos.
Yeah. And you can see little flashes of him in the painting there. Well, just suggestions.
Suggested.
Yeah. It's part of the family.
Well, this has been very interesting, and thank you so much for sharing your work with us. It's a wonderful exhibition, and I do want to remind everyone that it's up until November 16th, correct? So please come in, see the show, and thank you, Jillian, thank you, Sean, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Have you enjoyed the process of doing an exhibition together?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Just it took like a while, and we put our work in the same room, and we were like, "Yes, let's do this."
Yeah, I feel like we didn't know exactly how it was going to come together. Like when Richard
scared.
first asked, we're like, "Yeah," and we came up with this like all elaborate thing, and then I was like, well, let's just figure out where we intersect and go from there. And then it was like, I was just like, wow, we made that so complicated to begin with. But
that's part of the process.
Yeah, but it was a really nice challenge. Just like putting our work together, because we never do that. And I feel like for shows that we're having separately. We're always involved behind the scenes. Like Sean's always helping me pack stuff or transport it, and I'm answering his emails, things like that.
Writing my artist statements.
Yeah.
Editing my artist statements.
Editing, yeah. So yeah, it's been nice.
So
Yeah.
it's something that you would be open to again in the future.
Yeah.
Collaborating together.
Yeah. You know, it's also really refreshing. I was thinking about it, just the images together. You know, Sean's so used to seeing his work in his studio, my work in my studio. And of course, you know, they are situated in certain ways. So we're so used to seeing them sequenced in, you know, the way that we put them up. So it's been really refreshing seeing just like the work together in a different space, but also at least like from my perspective, I work in like loosely in like projects. So a lot of this work spans from a bunch of different iterations or different projects. And it's nice to see them live together and be able to be in communication. So I feel like, you know, change the edit or the sequence of work and it changes its meaning. So it's been really a nice way to see
Well,
it.
and also I think Julie Edwards is one of our directors here, and this is Catherine Fields over here, another one of our directors. And I think Julie had a really good sense of how to put your work together
Yeah,
in ways that I don't think that you would have done.
yeah,
you know,
definitely.
and she has a good eye for that.
I'm like, take the work and put it together,
Yeah.
do that. It's just, it almost feels, it's like kind of like getting a massage. Like it feels really good to have someone take your work and just show you something new because you're so familiar with it. You know, we see our work and we get bored of it, or, you know, we go through, have these frustrations with it. And it's so nice to hand it over and someone shows you something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good feeling.
Well, again, thank you all very much, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I think this was a success doing it.
Yeah, that was nice.
I liked it better than looking at his computer
Oh
monitor.
yeah,
'Cause
that
it's like,
I find that so hard.
yeah,
I find I lose my train of thought because I'm just staring at myself.
yeah, I know.